everyone, and thank you so much for joining this episode of MOJO Rising. It's a really important one and something that no one really talks about, and it's how to ensure your financial wellness after diagnosis. We all know that there's doctors out there to help us make sure we reduce our cancer burden. You certainly have heard from Oscar, who's going to help build that body up and make sure you're prepared for any conventional treatment. But what you might not know is that cancer impacts much more than just your body. And oftentimes it's a major factor when you think about how do you keep a roof over your head or how are you going to feed your children? So I've brought some really exciting experts to help us today. And I'm just going to take a quick minute to introduce the first one. She is very near and dear to my heart. She's a very dear friend and is actually one of the very first people who came to visit me after I was released from the hospital and surgery. And she helped inspire some different thinking. She handed me a variety of different books that I could consider using to help build my strategy outside of a conventional approach, and helped inspire me to think holistically around the types of herbs I was taking or the food I was eating. And so I couldn't be more excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Lauren. So Lauren, would you share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me. Julie and I, we've spent a lot of special moments. It's been a weird last year. It's been a great last year. Currently, though, I'm an account manager at Marsh. I work with Cole and Ashley, who you'll meet in a second. And I basically service group benefits daily, and just kind of giving a high overview of what we're doing now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. Cole, would you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Julie. Cole Lumpkin, employee benefits consultant and broker with Marsh McLennan Agency. I've been with Marsh, with MMA, as we're known, for about 6 years now. And Lauren and I, we worked with small to medium-sized groups from 2 employees to 250 is kind of our sweet spot. And we advise the owner, HR, CEO, CFO on the benefits that they need to offer. We help them broker the deal at their renewal time, at their effective date, and we work with carrier reps like Ashley and One America to help us do that. And so, I really enjoy my job helping people, and just love what I do. So thanks for having us.
So glad for you to be here. Now, Ashley, would you share a little bit about your expertise?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Hey, Julie. Thanks for having me. I am Ashley Scott. I'm a senior sales rep with One America Employee Benefits. I've been in the industry about 21 years, working with brokers and consultants like Lauren and Cole to provide financial wellness products to employers for financial protection, life and disability, so that they can take care of their employees, that their employees are financially supported during life's uncertain moments. So happy to be here today.
We're so grateful, and I truly have assembled a panel of experts to really help us with this conversation. So let's just start to dig in. And the first question is, like, how do you know what you've got? So how do you know what benefits could be offered through your employer? How would you help guide us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, number one, the most important, question that you should be asking as an employee or potential employee during the interview process is what benefits are offered. When I'm looking at a company trying to decide, whether it's a good fit for me, I'm looking to see what kind of benefits they offer. Are they employer paid? So are you offering medical, dental, vision, life, disability? Again, like what do you offer? So, obviously during the interview process is the best time to kind of ask that question and to kind of get that started. But then, kind of like changing gears a little bit to an active employee that's kind of unsure about what's offered. And number one, they need to know when their effective date is and their renewal date. That's obviously a very important thing to know. The second thing is, when is the open enrollment period? So the reason that those questions are important is because it's the employer's responsibility to educate their employees on what's offered, when it's offered, and how it's offered. And that's kind of where we step in as the employer benefits broker, the employer advocate, the employee advocate, if you will. Again, we work with the employer groups to offer a comprehensive benefit package to include medical, dental, vision, life, and disability. And so part of what Lauren and I do, we go to the medical carriers. We send RFPs out to all the medical carriers, dental carriers, vision, life, disability carriers to find the best deal for that employer to offer to the employees. Once we provide that recommendation, it's up to the employer to decide what to offer. At that point in time, that's when me and my team, we get together, and Lauren's a big part of this. We create open enrollment materials to include an employee benefit guide and to include a enrollment team to help offer and educate the benefits. So the employee benefit guide is a summary of all the benefits offered, whether they're employee paid or employer paid, and what the cost per pay period is. And so, from the enrollment team standpoint, which Lauren and I do help with from time to time, but mainly we do, we rely on our team to help us educate the employees on what's offered. So a lot of employees during the open enrollment process are kind of scared or nervous to ask questions in a group setting. And so it's very important that the employer allow an enrollment team, educators, counselors, benefit counselors to come in and to sit down with each employee and to talk to them about what's offered, summarize the benefits, and then open it up to any questions that they might have. Because again, questions are hard to come by in a group setting. They might be embarrassing for the employee. You never know. So that's why it's very important to do the one-on-one counseling with the employees during the open enrollment window.
Absolutely. So if you have not been through an open enrollment window, it's probably an indicator you may not have these sorts of benefits. So go ahead and reach out to your HR team and ask them these questions. But those open enrollment periods are really important to make sure you dial in the specific benefits for you and your family. Now, what happens if you opted out or didn't register or didn't take the time during the open enrollment period? What do you do if you don't have these benefits already?
So, Julie, unfortunately, you can't buy or apply for disability insurance if you've had a recent diagnosis or undergoing cancer treatment. So there are kind of rules against insuring people with pre-existing conditions that, kind of exist to protect insurance companies from buying a policy after usually like a 12-month exclusionary period for a condition that you've been being treated for. And it's kind of like having car insurance and not having car insurance and then trying to buy it after you've been in an accident to pay for it, like after the fact. So it's meant to be preventative, and that's why it's really important to pay attention at open enrollment when you're, newly hired, and really opt into the plan to start the clock ticking.
For sure. So can you share a little bit more about what is the value of disability insurance or coverage?
Yeah, great question. So disability insurance, in my opinion, is really the most important benefit after your medical. So simply stated, it's really paycheck insurance. So disability benefits provide you as an employee with income when you can't work. If you're in an accident or you're ill, you only have so many sick days or vacation days. And, you kind of run out of those days. So what do you do? How do you feed your family? How do you go about life? And there's a lot of statistics out there. 1 in 3 workers entering the workforce today will become disabled before retirement. And then, 90% of those disabilities are caused by illnesses like cancer. And I think you had some stats too, right, Julie, about the cancer stats, actually.
I sure do. And in fact, what you're saying, I think is really interesting, because I would say that's more of a retroactive data view. The data I'm collecting is that the cancer rates are actually increasing. So I actually expect what you just said to become even more important in the future, because we're seeing data from the American Cancer Society that the average male has a 1 in 5 risk of dying from cancer, and the female has a 1 in 6 risk of dying from cancer, let alone a 1 in 3 risk of developing cancer. So I think what the data you're sharing is true. And it's only going to get exponentially bigger unless we do something about this cancer epidemic.
Yeah, absolutely. On top of that, 2 out of 3 bankruptcies stem from medical bills. And so even people that have health insurance can really face financial uncertainty if they experience a serious illness. I mean, the average out-of-pocket costs are almost $18,000 for, a serious illness. So, that disability insurance, really protects you and gives you that financial protection during a disabling event or an illness. So it's really, really important to think about. I always tell people, buy the disability insurance. Don't, the dental is less important. So
I can say, from my experience, when you mentioned 18,000, I think I at least spent double that last year. So I can appreciate how that is the average. It is not the maximum, and it is not like the more you want to invest in this, there's not a lot that's covered by insurance. So you do need to have the additional funds so that you have the options of how you're going to invest in your future health. So can you talk a little bit about, because from my memory, when I was going through this last summer, there are different types of disability insurance. Can you explain to us just the two different types of disability?
Sure. So there's what's called short-term disability and long-term disability. So short-term disability, or STD, can protect your income if you're unable to work in a short period of time due to an injury and illness, or if you have a birth of a child. So typically this starts after 7 days or a week of being out, not working, or 2 weeks. And it pays you weekly for either up to 3 months or 6 months, depending on what your policy is. So it's not to be confused with workers' compensation. Workers' comp is a benefit available if you were to be injured on the job. The short-term disability is if you have an illness or an accident off the job, and it pays you for those kind of 3 or 6 months increments. And then there's what's called long-term disability, which is a separate product, and it's designed to protect an employee's income if they're out of work for an extended period of time. So that's a more serious injury or illness. Most cancers do run into a long-term disability period, and they can actually pay you for up until your retirement age or 65. So really good long-term protection there. If you do have the opportunity, highly encourage you to purchase or be covered for both.
When you think about these disabilities, does it cover you where you get the same paycheck, or how does that work, or what's the percentage paid?
Yeah, great question. So disability does pay a percentage of your pre-disability earnings. So it's typically around 60%, 60 to 66 and 2/3. And depending on what your policy is, that can be a voluntary policy where you get payroll deducted for the product and then have a tax-free benefit, or your employer might provide the benefits on behalf of the employees so that, the benefits would be taken care of. And those can be either tax-free or taxable benefits, depending on what your group's policy is.
Okay. And what about if you work for a smaller employer, or you haven't been there a full year? What rights do you have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So along with disability, you'll find that, or you may have heard of FMLA, or the Family and Medical Leave Act. So this is actually a federal law that provides job protected leave from work for qualifying medical reasons and family care reasons. So it does require continuation of your group health benefits and job protection if you were under the same conditions of not, having to take leave. So it can be unpaid or used at the same time as the employer is providing your disability leave. And if you work for an employer, a private employer that has 50 or more eligible employees, they do have to comply and give you FMLA rights. If you work for a public entity, such as a public school system, a municipality, a city government, you are eligible to take FMLA as well. So again, that's an ability to take 12 work weeks in a 12-month period all at once. Or a lot of employees, and we see a lot of our cancer patients taking this on an intermittent basis. So, perhaps they're going through chemotherapy or another therapy. They don't have to take the leave all in one chunk. They could work part-time. And I think you took advantage of that, Julie, during your event.
I sure did. So I actually took 7 weeks off after my surgery. And I laughed because you would think I was kind of eating bonbons and chilling out watching Netflix. But the truth of it was I used every single moment of that to do the research I needed to do to create my holistic health healing strategy. So I was watching YouTubes and on Facebook groups and doing research and reading books. So I was constantly using the 7 weeks. But my employer was kind enough to also give me some additional days around my infusions. So I actually took 3 days off for each infusion. The first day was for the infusion. The second day, frankly, was because I was tired. And then I would run through and see all of my holistic health team on that third day to make sure I was making sure my lymphs were moving and seeing the chiropractor and doing acupuncture so that I could avoid all those side effects. So I used my days so that I could break that up over the rest of my infusion calendar to make sure I could feed my strategy and do all the things I needed to do. So luckily, I was able to both use the short-term disability as well as break that out over my infusion cycle as well, which was great.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, beyond disability, what other options should our listeners be aware of to help secure that financial wellness?
So ancillary benefits are broken up into two categories, two groups: traditional worksite coverages and then additional worksite supplemental coverages. So the traditional ancillary coverages are dental, vision, to coincide with the basic life and disability. That includes STD and LTD. The second set is supplemental insurance, and that includes accidental, hospital, critical illness, and cancer. The critical illness coverage can be a combined cancer benefit with a rider attached to it, or it can be separate. It's up to to the group, to the broker to kind of decide on how they want that to be offered. And so, in my opinion, out of those coverages, out of the supplemental coverages, the hospital indemnity is the most important to me, in my opinion, to offer and to take from a supplemental standpoint, because you're more likely to get paid in the event anything would happen for a hospital stay, for an accident, for a critical illness, or for cancer. Now, touching on cancer just a little bit to kind of, talk about your situation. So with cancer, with critical illness, it helps, obviously if you have those insurance policies, what that does is it helps the employee kind of, pay the bill. It helps the employee not come out of pocket for their medical bills. And so how does that happen? Well, if you have a treatment, if you're, inpatient, outpatient for a treatment, depending on what that treatment is, depending on the time period that you're in there for, you get paid a benefit for that. And so you could get paid a lump sum benefit, or you could get paid incremental benefits. It just depends on how it's offered and how that policy is set up, again, by the employer and by the broker. So part of our job is to help the employer decide on what to offer and how to offer it. And so, if you're with Aflac, Colonial, those are the two big players in the supplemental insurance game. We work with those guys to offer those policies. And if you are with the Aflac or a Colonial, then you get paid out in a few different ways. But the payout can be from, it can take as long as 48 hours to 72 hours, or it could take 7 to 10 business days. Simply what you have to do is very simple process, very easy. You just take a picture of your invoice, your medical records, and you can scan that picture in, you can submit it to their app. And literally within days, you file the claim, they send you cash and put that cash into your direct deposit bank account. So it's very easy. So me and my family, we're, obviously I'm in the insurance game. And so we are a little bit overinsured, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So anytime I go to, even touching on dentist visits, vision, if you have an x-ray, anytime you go to the doctor, you can submit that bill and and you can request your medical records for dental, vision, accident, hospital, critical illness, cancer, whatever that might be. And they will pay you for that visit up to a certain amount of time. So let's say that you have all those coverages, dental, vision, accident, hospital, critical illness, then you can get up to 6 to 8 payments just for visits each year. So those are called wellness visits and wellness payments is what that is. So yeah, I mean, hope that kind of helps, the listeners understand what can be offered and what's important to look at when trying to decide on what to take from an employee standpoint.
And then beyond disability and the supplemental insurance, are there any other benefits that someone could tap into in this situation?
Yeah, Julie. So there's a program called Employee Assistance, or an EAP, that most employers should have access to, but a lot of employees do not utilize. It's basically a wraparound wellness and mental health support program that gives employees access to counseling and work-life services. So these services are really proven to reduce stress, absenteeism, and increase workplace productivity. And if you think about us living in this post-COVID world, someone who's not even going through a serious medical issue, 40% of Americans these days are, struggling with some sort of mental, health issue. So having the ability to tap into this free employee assistance program really can give you a variety of counseling supports, resources, and just the ability to get some personal help when you're going through the crisis. So make sure you're asking your HR about it. EAP, do we have an EAP? How do I access it? Because there's a lot you can do for free through that program.
Okay, great. Okay, now let's say, we were just diagnosed and you're trying to figure out options. What's the typical process to get enrolled in short-term disability or to enact it?
Yeah, sure. So hopefully you will have elected it during your initial enrollment period or your annual enrollment time. And if you do have the benefit, you've had it for a year or so, and you're ready to use it, typically you're gonna contact HR and you're gonna make your request in writing, and understand also the policies that go around the short-term disability. So, how long do I wait until my benefits start? Do I want to receive a check or a wire transfer? Typically, there is some paperwork required by your employer just to verify your job status, and then also some paperwork you would give to your doctor for them to substantiate your disability claim and provide some medical records. You'd want to make your request in writing. So if you're also going to be taking an FMLA leave, you can report that typically telephonically or in writing. And, you have some documentation that goes along with that as well. But really the first step is to notify your manager and the HR department, and they'll walk you through the process. Typically, short-term disability claims are paid out within 3 to 5 days, and they're paid weekly. And then if your benefit is going to go into a long-term disability benefit, they kind of started early intervention where, we work with the employee to let them know the benefit's going to be transitioning to, the long-term team, and that benefit is typically paid on a monthly basis. So that's kind of how it works. It's a very easy process, and a lot of claims examiners, insurance companies are really trained to be empathetic during this process. They know that these employees and claimants are going through a hard medical crisis, and really designed to make it easy for them as they work through getting their benefits.
And if memory serves, I think there was a little bit of gap between when the short-term disability actually kicked in. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yep. So typically it starts about 7 days. It depends on, again, what your employer policy has. It can be anything from, a week to 2 weeks before the benefits kick in. So typically an employee might use sick time or vacation time if they're not able to work, to sort of, fill in those gaps before their benefit starts.
Okay, great. Now let's talk a little bit about something that most people probably don't have top of mind right now. What if we wanted to switch jobs, or what if we got the job offer of our dreams? Is it even possible to consider that? Are there any options for someone to actually move companies after they've started treatment?
Yeah, so from a medical standpoint, the employee does have options. Number one, when you leave a company, depending on the size of the company, COBRA can be offered or state continuation coverage. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that because that's a whole different animal for another day, and we could probably spend a whole episode on COBRA coverages. Now, so depending on whether they elect COBRA or state continuation, the employee can transfer their deductible and their out-of-pocket maximum over from one plan to the next. Now, obviously, depending on their current company's plan design, rates, deductible, out-of-pocket maximum versus what the new company's rates, out-of-pocket maximum, deductible would be, the amount that the employee exposure could be a little bit more or a little bit less depending on those amounts. But there is no worry at all for that employee. They're going to have coverage no matter what. They're going to be able to receive treatment, and they're going to be able to get their benefits just like they would with their current employer if they were to change jobs. Now, if you want to talk about disability, I'll turn that over to Ashley so she can explain a little bit about how that works. That's just a little bit different than medical.
Sure. Again, if you are looking at changing jobs while you're out, you want to, again, understand the provisions of your policy. So there is what's called a portability feature on some policies. Again, not every carrier has this feature, but in essence, if you do have portability, you can take that coverage with you. And then I always recommend, if you are evaluating a new opportunity, to ask to see the benefits package to understand what they offer. Not all employers offer disability insurance or a full comprehensive suite of benefits. And that can actually be a leveraging tool. I have a lot of prospects that come to me and say, hey, we really wanted to hire this key employee, but we didn't offer disability insurance. So, we need to put a product in place quickly so that we can get this employee on board. So you'd be surprised at how many employers don't offer it. So ask the question, use it as a leveraging tool, and make sure you really understand and ask to see the benefit offerings. Another thing you can do is also ask to waive the waiting period, again, as a leveraging point as well. Some employers, might be willing to do that as well, depending on, how bad they want the employee. So again, just understand what your options are, ask the question, and read the fine print is my suggestion.
I think this is an important point. So I'm going to put my industrial psychologist hat on now. Most people, when they apply for a job and there's a bunch of different people they need to meet with, or questions they've got to answer, assessments they've got to complete, they think of that as a pain. My brain thinks of that as that's an organization that's willing to invest energy, time, and resources to make sure they have the best employees. It's the same thing as all the things you've just discussed and shared with us. If an employer doesn't have benefits beyond short-term disability and long-term disability, that benefits package isn't as robust as other options you can get on the market. So it may be better to look for bigger employers or to compare benefits to benefits. Do not just look at how much you're going to be paid, because benefits are really a huge part of your total rewards package. So it's really important to look past that number to look at what sits behind the hood when you're making a job employment decision. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. What advice would you give to someone who is considering benefits or debating whether we should opt in or not opt in? Talk to us a little bit about some of the advice you'd provide.
Recently?
Yeah.
And so part of what we get this a lot. So I have employees contact me, especially for small companies, all the time. They'll contact me when they're, being interviewed by the company, or actually the owner or the HR person will contact me and say, hey, we have a candidate who's really interested in joining our company, but they, are very hesitant to join because the benefits package is not what it needs to be or not what they want it to be. And so that could be anything from, the medical not being, the employer contribution could be very minimal, or could not be what that employee's used to kind of having. But really, most importantly, what I get more than most and a lot is, becoming pretty common. Groups don't offer disability as an employer paid product a lot of the time. Again, that depends on the size, small group, medium group, large group. But a lot of these smaller groups don't offer disability as an employer paid coverage. And so these key employees that they're trying to hire to grow their company and to, get it to where they want to be, the employees want an employer paid STD or LTD product to, have the opportunity to take as a benefit. And so that's very important this day and age.
Absolutely. What else,
So,
Ashley? Would you offer any advices to someone who's looking at benefits and considering whether they're opting in or opting out?
Yeah, I would just encourage you to always opt into disability insurance. Again, I think it's the most important benefit after your medical. It is your paycheck protection. We insure our cars, our houses, our health, and even our cell phones, but we don't often think about insuring our paycheck, and the ability to, earn a wage and to make an income is your most important asset. So if you are offered the opportunity to purchase that disability insurance, please, please, please consider it. It really could, make or break your family if you had a, disabling event or a major health crisis or an accident. You just never know these days. And the statistics are there that said it's very likely for all of us. So making sure you're adequately protected, your income is protected, and being financially well is, just really a good way to have that foundational protection.
Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's a provision, like if you join immediately as you join an organization, you're opted in kind of regardless of what you carry with you. But there can be some speed bumps if you decide to opt in at a later date. Is that accurate?
Correct. It depends on what carrier you are with. So if you decide to decline the coverage during your initial eligibility or initial enrollment, you could be considered what's called a late entrant. And depending on what carrier you are with, you could potentially have to provide proof of good health, also called evidence of insurability. If you don't have a plan, with One America, we do allow sort of an annual entry, so you don't have to prove good health, but most carriers do sort of penalize that employee if they do opt out late. So again, make sure you understand your provisions, the product, the carrier that you're with. And if you do have that opportunity, I always say it's good to, get the clock ticking. There's a pre-existing condition limitation on disability plans for the most part in general that really kind of restrict you for about 12 months if you do have a pre-existing condition and want to file within the first year of having the coverage. But after that 12 months, you can be completely covered for the benefits. So if you do have a pre-existing condition, you do have cancer, go ahead, opt into the plan, get the clock ticking on that 12 months so that you can be adequately covered, if your condition worsens or, you really need it on down the line.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Cole, I'm about to come to you, and I've got one final question for you. And it is, why should someone work with Marsh instead of another organization? So can you share a little bit about what your differentiators are?
Sure, Julie. Number one, we are an industry leader in employee benefits. We can work with groups as small as 2 employees all the way up to 2,000 employees. We offer a comprehensive benefit package to include medical, dental, vision, life, disability, as well as the supplemental insurance policies that we can offer. One thing that I always tell groups when I'm talking to them is we want to be your employee benefits broker, to advocate on your behalf for anything and everything that you can possibly think of. All we want you to do is just pay the bill. Allow us to help with claims reconciliation, billing reconciliation, advocate on your behalf and on your employees' behalf with the carriers when trying to negotiate rates. We offer benchmarking. We offer enrollment strategies, call centers, in person, you name it, we can offer it. So we are very hands-on with our approach. We're very, customer service oriented. If we don't get back to you within a few hours of a request, then, something could be wrong, because we usually get back very short time frame. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we set the precedent to get back to our employees and our groups in a very short time frame to let them know that we're working on their behalf. So again, all we want you guys to do, if you're listening out there, everybody, all we want you to do is just pay the bill. Allow us, Cole Lumpkin, as your employee benefits broker, to advocate on your behalf and to do everything that you can possibly think of from an employee benefit standpoint. I'm going to negotiate till the very end for you. So, yeah. So I'd love to help you. I think Julie has my there we go. Julie has my contact information. There's my email address, my cell phone number. You can text me or call me anytime, and me and Lauren and my team are here to help you. The last thing I want to say is we do have a dedicated enrollment team that all they do every day, all day, are new hires, terminations, and changes. So that's kind of a differentiator in the industry as well. So thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Lauren, Cole, and Ashley, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful for each of you for bestowing your wisdom on our listeners. We know that when you're diagnosed with cancer, you have the attention span of a gnat and you live in fear because you're not sure how you can provide for your family and provide for your home, make sure you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach. So you're helping us make sure that people have those basic necessities met. And I couldn't be more grateful for you. So thank you so much for joining us. Certainly, please reach out if you have any questions. As you can see, it's cole.lumpkin@marshmma.com. Reach out to Cole, Lauren, or Ashley or I if you have anything else that we can help answer. And of course, if you have any other podcast topics that you'd like for us to hit, please reach out to info@mojohealth.org. So from the bottom of my heart, Lauren, Cole, and Ashley, thank you so much for the knowledge bombs you've dropped on us today. Wish everyone a very healthy and happy and joyous day. And please tune in and rate us 5 stars when you listen. Thanks so much. Take care, all. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.